Parenting is hard. It can also be rewarding, but getting through the grind to the good stuff can be a real struggle. And all of us could use some inspiration, encouragement, or just a reminder that we aren't alone on this journey. Sometimes even parents need a timeout.
Hi, welcome to Parents Time Out. I'm Kim Botto. I lead Kids Club at Crossroads, and I am a mom to 5 and a grandma to 8. And this is the time of the week where we just gather with other parents and we learn from each other and we share ideas and we ask questions. Tonight, we're talking about balancing it all. And my friend and Crossroads Columbus community pastor, Vicki Diller, is going to join us. Vicki is a mama to 3. She's an adoptive mom, also was a foster mom. She's married. She's got a full-time job. She just redid Wilson, which is her house, with her husband. So we're just going to talk tonight about balancing it all. Vicki, I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here, Kim.
Yeah. What did I leave out of your introduction that you want people to know about you?
I think the only maybe tweak is, in addition to the housework, Tony also leads a business. So we're both very full-time working parents these days.
Yes, Tony is, home inspector.
Yeah, he's a home inspector.
Yeah, home inspection business. Yeah, and Vicki, let's see. I'll say one of the things I love about you the most, there's a whole bunch of things, but one of them is you are bold in asking for help in a really good way. Yeah. And I know the times that you've asked me to help. We have some great stories from those times. And I feel very honored that I got to come in. So parents, if you don't take away anything tonight, ask for help. Because not only does it help you, it helps others. So Vicki, while people are popping on, I wanted to ask you, and this is for all parents who are watching. What are you thankful for as a working parent? Or what are you thankful for as a parent?
Yeah, there's lots of ways I could answer this. The thing I feel most thankful for is that I get to use the gifts that God put in me. I get to use the skills and the passions and the drive and the energy that he gave me. I get to use that out in the world and use that to make a difference. So I love that I get to do work that I care deeply about. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you get to also.
Yeah.
And I didn't say when you're a mom, but your kids are still pretty little, 3, 5, and 6. So
correct.
You are. Yeah. So you are in I feel like this is a real physical stage where it's physically exhausting.
You're very correct. It's different than when you have little babies on you all the time. There is those moments of my body has some space in the world. But it is high energy.
Yeah.
We have so much energy to burn off every day here.
And you have some really fun, full of life kids.
I do.
So,
I do.
Yeah. So parents, as you're watching, I'll share this just so you know Vicki's real. She, for a period of time, every morning, my prayer was that Vicki and her family did not get kicked out of her apartment, because as they were rehabbing their house, they were living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And because of the noise level of their 3 adorable children, getting kicked out of the apartment was a real possibility.
We had more than one complaint for early morning noise disturbances. That was us.
So that's when you guys started going to the park at 6 a.m.
That's right. Yeah. We did a lot. The kids call them nighttime bike rides, but we hooked flashlights to their bicycles, and then we would ride around the apartment parking lot when it was still dark out because it was so early in the morning.
That's a great idea. How did you hook the flashlights to the bikes?
Duct tape. Yeah, we aren't fancy over here. We're just normal. So we use duct tape, put the flashlights on the bicycles and rode around the parking lot. The good news is at that time, there aren't a lot of cars moving in and out. So it's safer than when we would do it when it was light out, and tended to be quieter that way.
So parents, if you have young kids, get some flashlights and duct tape and get out early in the morning before the rest of the world is up. Great idea. So parents, if you're watching, if you have any questions, just put them in there and we will get them to them in a minute.
Okay.
And let's see, why don't we start out with, so you're a working mom.
I am.
And right now, there was a recent article that said 1 in 4 women are considering downshifting their careers or leaving the workforce altogether due to coronavirus.
That's right.
Why do you think that is, Vicki?
I think parenting is always tough outside of coronavirus and inside of this unique time. And I think being a working mom is always tough. I don't know many women who chose working motherhood because the logistics were smoother that route. I mean, there are lots of reasons why I think it's really awesome and great to be a working parent. And never would I say that logistics are the reason why I would choose this. In fact, I think logistics are like my worst nightmare as a working mother, is figuring out how's this all going to work and how do these time schedules overlap. And so throw that into a society and a culture that is like no longer set up for us to do well as parents, and especially as working parents. And man, I think it makes a lot of sense to take a step back and look at your life and say, what do I care about? And is the things I care about most getting the best of me right now? And actually, I went through that process with you not all that long ago, of saying, man, I'm about to have my 3rd baby in 2 years.
Yes.
And I can't, like, I can't be the wife to Tony and the mom to them that I want to be. And so I need to press pause on what work outside of the home looks like. And so went through a chunk where I cut back, and that was the exact right move for my family.
Yeah. And I love that expression that you use, press pause. Because I think so often women especially feel like that you're either in or you're out, but you just paused and you were still in, just at a different level.
Correct.
Of commitment.
Yeah. And we can't think of those things as all or nothing, or even worry about the 5 years from now, the 10 years from now. God has done so much so quickly that make my timelines just irrelevant and pale in comparison to his. And man, when I just do what I feel like he's leading me to right then I don't have to worry about the 5 years down the line, the 10 years down the line. And it's like press pause until he says, pick it back up.
Okay. So you're talking about hearing from the Lord. God. Okay. How do you even do that as a mom of 3 little bitties that you're taking outside at 6 a.m. to ride bikes? How do you make time for God in the midst of your schedule?
Yeah, it evolves. So when they were itty bitty, it was like in the middle hours of the night, I'm nursing a baby and scribbling in a notebook the thoughts I had. I mean, in the morning I'd be like, a little less coherent than some other nights were. But that was the reality, was a lot of those moments with God were in those quiet moments, late at night, early in the morning, and often in the middle of the night. And now that my kids are school agers, which is wild to me still, but now that they're school agers, we actually drop them off at school, and then Tony and I get to sit down at the table across from one another and spend a lot more dedicated time. So man, I've done everything from like scribble in a notebook to the middle of the night to like actually get to sit down and process my life with God and ask him to speak to me, and very, very different ways that's played out over time.
So you said you and Tony sit down at a table together, which, wow, the time has finally come, Vicki, that you can do that. So you and Tony sit across the table from each other. How do you process and hear from the Lord together?
Honestly, together, we're only mediocre at it. We do better when it's like we have our own time. And then at some point in the day, this is part of our like split schedules, weird working life. We say, how'd it go this morning? How was your day? Sometimes it's late in the evening that we're sharing what we thought we heard in the morning. So I would say it's more on our own. We do it very differently. So it's more on our own with some like reconvening to talk about it.
Yeah, but that's good. So you're still doing it together. And I think that's important for people to know. Like, do you guys pray together on a regular basis? How's that look?
We do, but I would say that's been in seasons. So it seems like we're either firing and it's normal and it's regular, or it's been like 3 months and we're like, oh, hey, remember when we did that thing? Like, remember that? We used to do that. Let's try that again. So I mean, it's gone up and down over time.
And I think that's what it's like with kids. Different art, and we shouldn't beat ourselves up about it. We should periodically evaluate what we're doing and what we're not, and what's working and what's not. And if there's something that was great that we're not doing any longer, then figure out how we can make room for it in our lives now. And part of that's about priorities. And so you and Tony are both working, and Tony is running a business, and you're helping with that too. How do you two prioritize? And I would love to know, and I bet other parents would too, what things have you intentionally taken off the table or just left off altogether?
Yeah, that's great. We have regular like weekly planning sessions for how our week goes. But I think what's better for us is about once a month, we get to have higher level conversations. So it's not scheduled, it's not the same time, but it seems to be about that rhythm where we like actually press pause and we say, hey, how's this going? Do you like the way this feels? Are you getting what you need in this area? Or how are we feeling about XYZ? We just ask each other some of those higher level questions. And those conversations are the ones that I think set us up to do well in our everyday. I've always been the kind of person that like, if Tony can help me identify the top 2 or 3 things that matter, that he thinks matter most to him and to our family, man, I can execute. I can help move us in the direction of that vision. But as he starts to help me clarify that and understand that, then I feel like our day-to-day becomes, then we're doing the things day-to-day that lead us in the direction we want to go more long-term. As far as things that stay off the table. Oh yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Well, I just think you talking about Tony leading and setting the priorities. I think for people who know you and you are a hard charger, go-getter, I bet it's hard for some to imagine you being led by your husband, but Tony very much is the leader of your family.
Correct. Yeah. And in the way that I work, I mean, I lead very publicly, and I lead at a pretty high level within Crossroads. Right. And I like to think strategically, and I have a lot of passion and drive. But it matters to me and to us that he has a strong voice in what our day-to-day life looks like. And so when I'm at home, I've practiced over time of how to intentionally help elevate him in some of those decision-making processes, because I'm used to making decisions, big ones and quickly, but really like taking a pause back and doing that in a way that's respectful of him has been really powerful for us.
Yeah, and I've seen it strengthen your marriage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I interrupted when you were talking about what you've taken off the table or what you're not doing.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, COVID kind of helps this in a weird way, but we haven't yet really done kids activities. So there's no sports schedule or any of those things, which I think has made our evenings really sweet as a family. I think it makes it so the kids have good time with Tony and Tony and I have good time together. And I know that this is like, we're nearing the edge of like, they're going to want to do those things. And of course we'll support that. But so far that's been something we've been able to keep off the table that I don't balance extracurriculars yet. And that's good. I'll stay there until we feel like it needs to change. Other really small, simple things. I don't deep clean my house. I just don't.
Yes.
Yeah, we keep it tidied and wiped down, but there is no dusting or of those things that happen here. And I don't decorate for holidays. So I might buy a pumpkin. We put up a Christmas tree, but it's not like we don't turn the house over for holidays. And I know that for some people that's like nostalgic and wonderful and beautiful, and that's great. For me, that's work, and I don't want to do it.
Right. And I don't think your kids are negatively affected because of it. I think something else that you do, Vicki, is I would call you a minimalist as far as your kids don't have 15 different toys around. When you come in to your home, there really are very few toys laying around, but your kids are always having a blast and doing tons of things. I think some of that's because they have to find their own things to create with and play with.
Yeah, those were all intentional conversations. I mean, it all goes back to that time of Tony and I looking at each other and going, what do we want? And what are some of these decisions we can make that set us up to go in that direction? And for me, I didn't want to feel like I was sacrificing time with my kiddos when I was at work, which means when I'm home with them, I'm home with them. I don't want to be doing all that extra work around the house. And so we just found creative ways to manage that workload. So it's a little less encroaching on our time as a family.
Right. Now you talking about you and Tony managing your workload and everything. So how do you keep your marriage healthy in the midst of all this, especially when you were living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 little children?
Yeah, we have lots of time very close to our little humans in the apartment. And then we went into COVID, which is like, it's harder to have a babysitter. It's harder to do X, Y, Z. And even before all of that, I don't know that I would say Tony and I were wildly good about date nights or having a weekend away or anything like that. We've always been a little bit more on the cuff with it all. I think the thing that's helped us the most is just having really good communication. I know that sounds like lofty and high up, but man, we have good conversation and communication. And I know where he's at spiritually and mentally and with his work on a day-to-day basis. And he knows that of me. And just being able to like focus in on that's the thing that we know when communication is strong, our marriage is good. And so that's the thing that we're always focusing on in our day-to-day.
And so your kids just went back to school. Was it this week they went back?
No, they've been back since August.
Okay.
Yeah.
But prior to that, you had them around all the time. How do you guys make time for just the two of you?
Those 5 months of 2 parents working and 3 young kids were crazy. I mean, there's no other way to say it other than like, man, it was really, really hard and honestly not that good for anyone involved. It just wasn't that good. So, Tony would say that going through the months with the kids home, with them out of daycare, that was the first time in our marriage that his work took the back seat to mine. And that was a big deal. And it was a bigger deal than what either one of us could have realized before that. But there was a lot that he had to process and work through as a result of that. Like, what is my value and what is my worth? And this is hard. And I want to be going after my thing. And I feel held back for the first time. And so processing through that was it was a big part of our journey with having the kids home those 5 months. But the other part I would say is his work. He ended up working like the 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. So I would work during the day, relieve him from the kids in early afternoon. He'd get some work done, and then we'd flop again. I'd work a little bit, and then we'd flop again. Or then we'd do like bedtime, and Tony and I would connect for like 30 to 45 minutes before I fell asleep, and he took the night shift working. So it was like, man, one of us was working most of 18 of 24 hours in the day, minus those few hours where everyone was asleep, and the like 1 hour where we said, the thing that's most important is that you and I say hello.
Oh, that's good.
And hello's going to happen at 8 p.m. when the kids are asleep. So I did my best to stay awake, to spend some time with him. And then after I fell asleep, he'd go right on working the night shift. So that's how we did it, was recognizing like, you and I have to have FaceTime through this, or it's not going to work.
Yeah. So you guys did your nightly hellos, and then you also still had your weekly catch-ups where you're kind of looking at your calendar and planning ahead.
Yep.
Yeah. I think communication with our spouse is often the thing that falls along the wayside when we do get busy, or when we're communicating about the kids' needs and schedules and not really checking in. Do you guys have a question that you ask each other to really see, not just the, how you doing? How's your day? Is there something a question that you use to really dig deeper?
Man, I wish I had a good answer, but I don't know that we have anything super creative or remarkable to offer. We do a lot of like, how do you feel about that? Or how does that feel for you?
Yeah.
And then that gets us past talking about like the thing or the logistics, and we're talking about ourselves and how we're responding to it. So maybe there's a tip in there, but
yeah, I was looking for you, Vicki. I was looking for you to help. I know that you work with tons of young moms.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, especially now? I mean, it's just hard with fewer babysitters, so less help in the house. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the thing that young moms most need to hear?
It's okay to prioritize yourself, and it's okay to prioritize your marriage. And I recognize that anytime someone says the word prioritize, that there's a cost involved, and it's worth paying whatever cost comes from prioritizing those two things. So if your house is a mess, no big deal. If the laundry is clean but piled up, no big deal. If you didn't landscape this year or pull a weed, like, no one cares.
Right.
Figure out the ways to prioritize yourself and prioritize your marriage, and the rest of it at the end of the day just matters way less than we think it does.
Yeah, there's have you ever read the book I think it's called Choosing to Cheat by Andy Stanley?
No.
It's an old book. It's small, so it's one that I have the attention span to read. And he talks about, you're always going to be cheating something. There's always something. So make the choice.
Yes.
Instead of letting it just creep up on you,
Yeah.
like sit down and decide, I can't give 100% in all these areas.
Correct.
So, like here, I'm looking at my kitchen because I like to have my counters clean. Mm-hmm. But my floor right now, when you walk across it, it makes noise because it's so sticky. But I've just made the decision. I'm not going to get stressed out about my floor being sticky.
Ironically, my area is also the kitchen counter. When the kitchen counter is clean, I feel fine. The rest of it can be a disaster. And I'm like, we're good. I can make the next meal. When the kitchen counter is dirty is when I'm like,
that's right.
This is too much.
And I think it's Trina Eagles, who I think is a friend of yours. She said that she just had this convo with her husband last night. I guess this is about if you have to cut somewhere, it should not be your marriage or family. Yeah. I thought, actually, Trina, you were talking about the kitchen counters, because I was going to say, for that. I think talk to your spouse too about what's important to them, because I know when my kids were little, I thought Mark cared if the house was picked up and the dishwasher was empty when he came home, and I would get so stressed about doing those things. And then when we had a conversation about it, he said he didn't care.
No.
Like what he cared about was he loved it when he came home and the kids were laying on the floor and we were having fun with them. So definitely talk to your spouse to see what their priorities are, because maybe we're trying to meet a need or an expectation that they have not put on us. I think a lot of times we do that, especially as women. Vicki, so we're nearing the end of our time.
Okay.
How would you, any closing thoughts you'd like to leave with parents who are watching?
I think just if it feels hard right now, that's because it is. And it's okay to say, this is a really hard time to be a parent. This is a really hard time to be a working parent. And the challenge I've been giving myself is not staying there. So it's okay for me to say, this is a really hard time. And I want to be a person of growth. I want to be a person of taking new ground. I want to be a person of faith. And we see in the Bible, God uses the wilderness to speak to his people. And I want to hear from him, and I want to grow, and I want to walk into the new land having had learned something from the process. And so I think both of those things are very true right now. It's a really hard time, and there are things we can do to take some control and some ownership over our lives. And there's a whole lot that God can teach us right now in the midst of it.
Absolutely. And we will get through it.
Yeah.
We'll get through it, and we will have life experiences that we can then help. Like as you coach, I know some of the things that you've gone through in your life, God has now used those, and that you can come alongside other couples who are having similar challenges and struggles.
That's right.
And you wouldn't have been able to do that had you not had those things. So Vicki, it's always great to see you. Like I said the other day, can't wait to come up and have Skyline with your crew again. Is that still your all's favorite place to go?
It has always been the kids' favorite place.
Yes.
I don't know that I would ever say it's mine.
Yes. It was.
I love that they love it.
Yeah. We went to Skyline. It wasn't even long after you moved to Columbus, and even being new, the waitress knew your orders. She knew your rules as far as when the kids could get dessert. She knew that Zoe wasn't going to sit the whole time, so she had to bring crackers right away. You were known at Skyline. So Vicki, thank you so much. Next week, everybody, we'll be back at 8:30, and we're going to talk about the importance of positive influences in coaches in our kids' life. And I know Vicki, Vicki's had people live with her because she thinks it's so important to, one, open up her house to people, but also she wants her kids to have other adults in their life. And actually, we could go on. Yeah, other adults that look like them, because not all of Vicki's kids look like her. But yeah, so next week we're going to have Lindsay and Joe Buddy and Aaron Giltner, who Lindsay and Joe were mentors and coaches to Aaron. And we're just going to talk about how do we get that for our kids and the importance of it. So Vicki, have a great night. Parents, bless you. Have a good week. Good night, everybody.